very stagnant on Villa. They've always been willing to make a couple changes, and I think one thing that highlights that is the bans. And I think coming into the game immediately, for me, that's going to be the biggest stand-up for what happens. I'm expecting that Azami to get taken away. It should be taken away. It's nuts on Villa. It's nuts in most places, but it's particularly nuts on Villa. And we know Arial just have a passion for not playing with it here. That's going to change up at the very least a little bit, because the Azami really helped Wildcard on their defenses, just being able to just chew away time.
Time management, a massive note for Arial Rise, and they will remove the Flores to start things off. We saw this as a ban back on Cafe in our previous matchup. Not unheard of by any means, especially with all the soft destruction here on Villa. I appreciate that decision to remove her. And Dokebi, a follow-up. Wow! That's a new one.
Yeah, I mean, Wildcard have just really not liked Dokkaebi. It's not something they want to deal with. They hate their opponents being able to call them out on their roam, and with the way that they like to play on Villa, extending across, trying to eat into a little bit of that time bank that the attackers have available to themselves, it's that comfort for them, right? And I mean, look, she's a very flexible operator. I can get why if you really don't want to get disrupted by those logic bombs, you axe it. The Valkyrie ban, though, I mean, that's a lot more standard, right? You don't want to get blown up. You don't want to give that invisible Kavera lurking in the basement just to try and get some sort of shenanigans going.
You're projecting. It's okay. I also want to see a Kev in the basement.
I want to see it so badly.
I'd honestly be curious to see how a wildcard team would flex if they just randomly found a Brazilian in their back. Naturally, North American teams are not the greatest playing up against Brazilians. Throwback to against W7M. It wasn't the greatest showings, let's be real here. But you're looking at a situation where Arial Rise on this defensive side, I like their defensive setup, at least the operators they're bringing, nothing too out of the ordinary. A Rooney on the board is a dangerous pick nowadays with the adjustments around Brava. If you can hack out those Syria gates with a Clutch Drone, you then turn it into the attacker's favor rather than just breaking it like you would throwing in a normal bit utility, as was originally intended in test server, and then they didn't implement it for like the first half of the season for some unknown reason. But I mean, we're kind of gonna get the cab in the basement because Adam had the pistol out. Also, Adam's in for his first match.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that kind of changes things up, right? It has made a couple of appearances here, so I doubt it will throw them too much off. They'll still have that solid game plan of how they want to begin, and with defense being your starting side, you get a little bit more time just to adjust and ease yourself into the game. Instantly, though, Kiru grabbing that Nook, jumping down into the basement, an early ping indicating that there was someone at least out this earlier. Barbed wire dropped on red stairs to give Atom that little bit more awareness. He tries to sneak up behind him, but Freak just immediately punishing Kiru for not checking, not watching carefully enough as walking up the staircase. That's the first pick going over in favor of Arial Rise, and this position on red is going to continue to hold out. The rest of Wildcard Ace is starting to clear through now from main, taking statue, taking trophy, but Atom, Freak, still in this position, and there's so far no clear indicator for the Wildcard to break it, as, well, they're just going to give Freak a second kill, dropping right into his line of sight.
Dropping through as well, a follow-up is there, and the problems for Wildcard, they were trying to bank on that Nook working out. That non-ban would have been a factor, but it's just not. They're comfortable playing around the lack of both audible information, and Wildcard Aces, I think, banked a little bit too much of their setup on just that. C4 from Asian down below finds the kill, and that should probably be the round. Bino's on a 1 versus 5, has 0 calls remaining, has an EMP and a 417 with no drones either. I hate to state the obvious, but this is a minor problem for the Wildcard Aces.
One of them times where you just gotta say clutch or kick and hope Bino is able to pull it off and you're not stuck in the 5 versus 4 for the rest of the map. But just take it a little bit of time. I mean, it's always a bit peak, right? If you have to kick the player on round 1, but the rules, do you know what I mean? Like, you gotta stick to it. It's going to try and find a couple kills. It'd be a bit early, I feel like, to take that tactical timeout and sit on the roof, so just try and get something done. 40 seconds to play with. Like you said, not exactly very likely, but Freak doing a little bit of sabotage for his team. They're going to impact himself just to increase Bino's odds. I say that. He's immediately gone and taken the tactical timeout.
Yeah, the question here for Wildcard Aces is what exactly went wrong? And obviously we have the omniscience of knowing everything that just happened, the X-ray vision, and seeing where it all went. Boiling it down, the long story short, is they dedicated too much on a too risky play. Kiru did not have all that much information, was not actively being droned in, and didn't actively have the Hell Presence Reduction system engaged, as they were just trying to walk into the Link setup. It didn't work. Freak will reinforce the flawless round in their favor, casually jump out the landing window, and turn it into a flawless setup. But Wildcard, I think, can take some time. And naturally, with the IGL setup they have on their side, they should be able to learn. It's just a question of whether they add a second dimension to their attacks, because what was the second dimension, that being Bino and the Lion, didn't activate quickly enough.
Yeah, and that's kind of the risk you run with the Nook, right? Is you're having this player who you don't want to always have that drone going ahead of yourself, kind of against standard form, right? Normally you want that drone there so that when your entry takes the gunfight, they have good information, there's a chance the opponent is distracted by the drone, tries to shoot that out, gets caught out with a free gunfight. Nook kind of relies on the opposite effect. You want to be hidden, you want to stay undetected, and that's what the gadget is there to do. You put it on, you're not going to get spotted out by the default camera, you sneak past, you grab a kill in the back when they're distracted. The problem is that they weren't distracted. They had a contingency for when this Nook runs on through, and there's not really much more to say other than that. They had the barbed wire, they had a Legion waiting, knowing that Atom on red is the linchpin for this hold. Wildcard are going to have to deal with it. If they can't get it from below and get attack on pinch on top as well, it's going to be a lot harder to do. They cut away the bottom, they make it impossible for you to come. You hold onto the position, you get a flawless round, and everything kind of just goes right for Arial Arise.
One also set up here for Arial Arise is bringing up what Korbeck and I in an old collegiate match called the pharmacy composition. We just have a lot of health for everybody on the team. The Doc is there in case anybody takes damage. The Rook is there for an extra 20 health per player, plus the ability to withstand should you be downed. It allows a little bit more flexibility and gamble plays on the defensive side. Should you get over-aggressive, take early damage, get an early down, you're still in the fight, and you're still able to get a little bit more aggressive than you would be otherwise. And this leads to Arial Arise's overall game plan of making sure that Wildcard Aces are not comfortable even if they enter the map. And once they do, they should be reinforced with so much aggression that they can't have an availability to get out. There's Poison, who's downed, a nade to follow up, but look at that. With the combination of stim pistols and his Rook withstand, Quartz is able to find the kill into Riot, who jumps in, and Poison is right back at full HP plus sub.
Yeah, that's just beautiful. That's you pick an operator with one exact purpose in mind, and it pays off so beautifully. You net yourself the freebie kill. You're just absolutely chuffed with that performance. Jumping into the window now, just trying to force the gunfight, and that's what works for them. The castle barricade preventing the crossfire as Kiru walks up and claims off a double kill. Frost still able to get back, and he's trying to keep up with the pace of the round, but JJ gets on the board, jumping into walk-in as well. Quartz now just on the table. Do they know? Well, they will, hearing that drop sound, but not an immediate swing coming through. A little bit of a slowdown here, though, no doubt. Frost backing away to Astronomy just to give themselves that backbone to play off of Asian holding the long angle onto Brick's doorway. What's next for the Arial Arise?
Well, it's Quartz, the French-Canadian on the Canadian op, needs to play aggressive. Didn't see Kiru, but still wins the fight. The second attempt, though, with the ARX from Bino, who couldn't find a kill in the previous round, is now able to find the final one here in round 2. And make it right back to a tied-up scoreline.
It's a nice way to break things up, right? And despite the fact that they had a kind of slow start to the round, the Doc causing a couple problems, turns out when you get Kiru inside of Master Bedroom, when he can look for these gunfights, he's going to win them. And if Kiru's winning gunfights on your entry, and that's what gets you that space that you need, well, that site starts to become a little bit compressed, and that's kind of why teams will still go for this very close-up take, right? You get walk-in, you get Master, you're immediately next to the site, and the long angles make it kind of awkward for defenders. I liked what Arial Arise were going for, and honestly, it kind of paid off for them at the start. They just couldn't follow through to the rest of the round. They didn't have the correct coverage to prevent the kind of bold move in, right? And when things start to fall on a very gummed-up defense, it slips away pretty quickly.
That snowball effect setting in a little bit sooner than I think they liked. And the problem there was over-aggressing after you saw them stay a little bit longer than I think was warranted. As soon as Poison survived past those first 2 nades, they were like, oh yeah, we have an opportunity to bring it back. And then I think they over-aggressed just a little bit. Uncharacteristic for Arial Arise, but one I still think they can learn from. And the most important part of it is they will go to a bomb site, now bringing in a completely different lineup. Not a single one of these operators was played in the previous round. I also like the setup they have with the Mute Mozzie combo. Yeti, in the analyst segment to the previous matchup, said he didn't really like it for the Hong Kong Rebels, but depending on how Arial or Rise play it, I think they can remove a lot of the information here for Wildcard Aces. It really just relies on a combination of drones and the IQ. If the IQ can remove that utility, sure, it's a completely different conversation. But if they overcommit into some of that utility, then you're in a bunch of.
The other question here is, how's this IQ going to pan out with the cardiac sensor? That's the classic one you always want to see. You can spot the sensor active in Pulse's hands, and well, as IQ, you get the pistol out, so he's in the heartbeat. He won't have one for much longer. Droning just from the start, and they clear out the rest of this map, make sure there's no funny business, immediately looking for this early gunfight by getting inside a piano, and Riot just quicker than Freak expected him to be. He nets himself a very nice early kill, and with Kiru now in this position on the Nook, just to, again, try and pry away at this defense, start to move in on the horizontal, as they're clearing out a bit of space into Library and Living as well. Good start for them, but they lose right upstairs.
That return is there, and most importantly, losing that Ion. That's a big fragging opportunity that's gone. Granted, there is a return. Asian on that more of a roam setup with the Oryx is taken care of. But look at how far extended Arial or Rise still are, even though they've lost now 2 players. Quartz is going to have to go up red stairs on the Pulse, which is not safe by any means. Poison's going upstairs on the Smoke, which you'd usually expect is a site hold and a half, and nobody's directly on the site for either team at this point, Golu. I'm concerned as to what either squad's going to do at this point, considering the lack of information for either one.
I do just kind of find it amusing that we do just have Smoke chilling in Bathroom now, and with the fact that no one from Wildcard has pushed it into this space above site yet, despite the fact that Oryx is dead, it does give this opportunity to try and catch someone out. The drones now coming through from Bino, though. So this is the chance for them to start to retake a bit of this. The flank coming in from Quartz, though, could be kind of big. The barricade's still down. It's the wall next to it that's been opened up by Ace previously in this round.
Oh. What?
A little bit of a trade angle.
I don't know how he hit that shot. Quartz is now walking in. Didn't know the window was open, though. At least didn't note the fact that somebody could be on the other side of it. And Kiryu is able to find a follow-up. Adam in a 1 versus 3. We've seen these situations before, just in the previous round, but this time it's with the SMG-11 and a C4 Bino. Apparently with all the information he needed, though, able to just walk in, look through that head hole breach, and drop down Adam on the Mute. And it's Wildcard Aces to now take the lead here.
Yeah, and that round had a bit of back and forth to it, right? We saw Wildcard moving in, get the initial pick. Great opening information for a round to find yourself that early kill. And from there, focusing on this horizontal pressure, trying to clear out a little bit of space, and then they find themselves in this position where they have a kill on the only player left above. The drones come through. They kind of realize this is a space they can move into, and that's where we see the lull in the round, and that's where we see Arial or Rise trying to make these moves to grab one of these kills back. Now, they're only 1 man down. We see the Smoke move into retake above to try and catch someone out if they're not expecting that movement. We see the Pulse looking to try and wrap around the back on the long flank, and it nearly pays off if they check the window, if they committed to swinging out to it. But again, you're just not expecting Kiryu to be sat outside of it waiting for these kind of rotations to come off. But that's what happens with the information game that Wildcard Aces are playing. There's a drone set beside. I don't think too much of it. Walks past it, goes for this flank. The drone was active. Someone spotted him out, and they know, and they're waiting patiently for it to happen. Great job by Wildcard Aces to adapt mid-round to kind of recognize what was being pulled off by Arial or Rise.
Adjustments is something that Arial or Rise out also has to make on that defensive side. Figure out what is going wrong for them in some of these rounds. Naturally, the first went in their way so well, they don't have all that much to analyze. Wildcard obviously made a very single-dimensional take. He didn't do all that much with it, and obviously lost the round in the first 45, 60 seconds. But now, second attempt, they have a lot of information to go off of. Kiryu is going a completely different direction, knows where the EDDs are because he's being actively droned in. This is something they were missing, but even with the active droning, Freak uses an impact and finds another double to open up the round. A carbon copy of our previous situation, just in a completely different way, here as Freak still is able to frag out.
If you, like, what do you want to say? Freak just fixing the mistake there. The drone information not quite coming through in time. Riot kind of making up a little bit for it now, able to come back through Art and get the pick. But you still lost 2 members. You've lost that Nook, and you've lost your Yana. All 4 of your nades. Still some explosives on the table in the pocket of Riot, but that's more than you want to be relying on in a situation like this to get you by on the attack. A bit of slowdown now, though, as they are trying to gather a little bit more information. You can see still that pressure around main stairs, which with JJ being out on study balcony, they will want to try and address to give them this safe option to start pushing through. But both the Poison and Quartz on that Omai to give backup are just continuously going to be bolstering this position. A little bit of a tough job here for Wildcard Aces to cut themselves out of.
And even being able to drop down Freak, you still have to regain so much real estate and manpower that since losing those kills, they still have barely entered into the map. The extent of their map control right now is the main door and some of study. And even some of study isn't a guarantee. Adam playing on top of the map's shield should be able to hold down this walk-in should Bino try that vault forward. JJ's able to drop down poison, so the smoke is taken care of. Even though JJ takes that damage, they're still more than happy to take that trade. And now the Wildcard Aces in a 3v3 are going to have 3 separate prongs of attack. JJ on brown stairs, Bino over towards study, and finally Riot walking up red. The question is, can Riot survive long enough to be an impactful part of this attack?
And does Asian know? He's watching the staircase. He's ready for someone to be trying to pull off this flank, but doesn't like they're fully aware, and as Bino goes down, he has to try and join the rest of the squad. The Capcan traps, though, get the pick onto JJ, the Ying, and the Diffuser Carrier, which makes this a little bit harder for Wildcard. Riot forcing himself on behind the vault door as the plant's going down on the bomb chassis, trying to provide that cover throughout the long site. The impact grenade's being thrown onto the wrong position, so the plant will successfully go down, and now they hit the ground, they hit the floor, they take the cover, and they're waiting to see what comes back. The flank coming in from Asian is good enough for one, but does he spot the second? Bino, you just need to turn around, mate! Asian's behind you, and he just doesn't tunnel visioned on the Wamai on the other side of the room, and he gets that pick, but it's all for nothing, because the flanking Capcan gets the 2-piece.
Bomb defusing attempt failed. Defenders win.
Headphones on the wrong way? Earbuds in the wrong ears? Headphones just not on? Only explanations? I think roll the dice, find one of your 3, and you may have your answer. The freest of flanks, I don't know how in the world Asian was not checked the second time around, and now it's Arial Arise tying things right back up, and around it, Wildcard brought back a lot more than I thought they would. Shout out to JJ, especially in the earlier stages of that 3v4, being able to drop down poison on the brown stairs and massively bringing back the real estate Wildcard needed, forcing Arial Arise back and have to worry about a lot more of the 3 players that were left on the site. They're going back to Trophy Set with almost a carbon copy of their setup. Then, some difference, they're changing out the Frost, which I thought was a fairly decent staple of their setup. Instead, I believe that's Quartz changing out for the Warden this time around, maybe wanting to mitigate some of that more secondary utility.
Yeah, I think the impact of the Ying being able to break the mainstairs hold in the last round has given them just a little bit of a question mark, right? They're like, if that comes through again, we want to have some sort of actionable plan in place already so that we're not going to have to lose this round and then try and recover from the mistakes. I do agree with you, though. I don't know if the Frost is the thing you immediately want to change, but you're looking at the rest of the lineup, it's like the castle has a solid purpose here. The Rook Dock is the combination that you want to live through this plethora of grenades that are going to be coming your way. The Frost is the only sort of cuttable thing to keep this plan truly intact. Is it going to be worth it for those goggles? There's no Ying, there's a couple flashbangs. Well, only time will tell.
I'm not a fortune teller.
Oh, are you not?
I know they skewed my job description on the SFCL website. I can't give you that one, unfortunately. I don't know what the setup here. Do they have ADSs? There is one ADS there, but the EMP instead, nade around the wall, should land and does. Poison will revive themselves and will somehow survive. No extra stim pistol though, and the follow-up is there. A nade from both sides and a follow-up from Bry gets the job done. And Wildcard clear out Poison first try, without having to dedicate anything more than secondary utility. However, Quartz has taken his place. They don't want to give up Closet that easily.
A bomb has been
Yeah, and you've used up all 4 of those grenades, so it's going to rely on these close-range engagements. You've got stuns left to play with, but, I mean, it's Warden, right? That's the situation that they thrive in. Looking to try and get aggressive, has to be careful of that longer angle that can be drawn from the back of the window, and, I mean, you see the silhouettes moving away. Wildcard Aces, they've invested all this utility to try and clear out the position, and with Courts retaking it, they just go, we don't have an answer. We can't break this position anymore and just have to give it up. They invested 4 grenades, an EMP, 5 flashbangs, to then just have to go to the other side of the map, and there is an extended hold here from Arial Arise.
Oh my gosh, that's a problem. And Wildcard, even with picking up that opening kill, didn't go off of it quickly enough. You talked about it, the 4 nades. The extent of their utility now is primary utility on Bino and Riot in the EMPs and arrow jabs, irrespective of one another, and a flash for JJ. That's basically it. That's not utility at all. Compared to Arial Arise, all of their setup is basically still available. The ADSs are still alive, sitting inside of the back of sight, and Freak, casual double kill with the 416 in hand. Easy to pick up those 2 and give Arial Arise that 2-man advantage. We've seen a 2v4 brought back in series prior, but not thus far in this map. Nice shot from Bino to drop ports, but it's still a 1v4 required. A follow-up is there onto Adam. They will reload the ARX and fight for another, looking for a follow-up through the breach. The diffuser is not in their hands, and that is ending up being their downfall, not able to go the other way around, and costing them the round as a whole. Arial Arise will take.
Well, I mean, again, that's what happens, right? And we saw this come out from Arial Rise. They tried to do it. It's something that Wildcard Aces, not the same complete identity of a strat, but the same idea of just gumming up and locking down Walk-In worked against them yesterday for the side of Make-A-Wish. That's how they won one of their only rounds they got on Villa. So this is clearly something that Wildcard Aces want to play from the master side. And Arial Arise, we spoke about it before, right? If they're coming into this, they see how Wildcard got to play the map yesterday, they've seen how they play it for the rest of the season as well. If they come in, they match how it wants to be played, and that's a perfect showcase of Arial Arise doing just that. They are setting themselves up to directly confront the win condition for Wildcard, and it's done beautifully.
I have to say also something a little surprising for me is the fact that Wildcard was so active to drop down Poison time we saw them on the top floor after that nade dedication. But this time, after Poison dies, they don't actively try and take Closet. They just, well, you can have it. Go ahead, rotate through that path, walk in, and you're good to go. They gave away the utility or the real estate. They used almost all of their. But now into this round, Arial Arise going back to Kitchen Dining. This is also a site they have lost. They dropped it, of course, in that 1v3 that Adam was left in. And the question for them is, how do you change this extended hold on the bottom floor? I don't think the top floor needs all that much of a difference. Maybe an extra body early on in the round to make sure that Asian has some help. But that bottom floor room was pretty good. The problem is it ended up being too good to the point where you extended.
Yeah, and how well are Wildcard going to wrap themselves around it this time? Again, starting off in a very similar pattern, the early information, trying to just get that tag onto Freak, spot him out and start to hunt things down. But so far, not too much pressure for him, and he hasn't got too many other players nearby to back him up, so it's just very much going to be a case of shoot a couple drones, fall back, wait for the rest of the squad to get into position where you meet up with the rest of the team. He's walking down now to the main lobby, and, well, with Kiryu going for the opening on this doorway, the Lion has been found pretty early on. JJ walking in, it's Bri that's going to die first. Another one down below, that's JJ, Freak for a triple, Freak looking for the quad, Bino finally able to do something about it. But a case of, I mean, Freak's by himself.
Reloading.
Why are you just feeding 1v1s to a guy by themselves?
Problem is they're also not dedicating any utility or information gathering to clear him out. Finally, a kill is found. Riot will be able to drop Asian after the 17th attempt in this round. But Arial Arise are still comfortable with that. They have a 3v2, they have 2 C4s available, all the information they need. And the extent of info here for the Wildcard Aces, they have 1 drone and the IQ scan. That's it. And the extent of what the IQ scanner will find is the barrels. And maybe C4s if they're thrown in the wrong spot at the wrong time. Riot will open up some things above, and there is still verticality available with 6 breaching charges, but but that's basically all that Wildcard can hope goes in their favor. That's not even happening anymore. Adam will drop Riot through the floorboards, and now it's up to just Bino in this 1 versus 3.
Well,
Never mind.
immediately going to get caught off. Yeah, first player you encounter, Atom, just still chilling inside a living room, going to grab that kill. And things not working out so well for the Wildcard Aces the second time that they attack onto Kitchen and Dining, and you wouldn't really know it was much of a Kitchen Dining attack, considering everyone died on the complete opposite side of the map. Main stairs, a bit of a bloodbath, a bit of a slip and slide down the stairs on the way out of that one, but look, I mean, it's just, you should be a little more clinical with your drone work, right? You've got to bring drones in, you've got to have more than one player work up to someone like Freak, who's been a little bit on fire this game already. Emily and Rise, sure they'll be very happy with that first half.
Also with the adjustments they made, usually when a team loses a site, they make macro adjustments to they switch their entire operator composition, saying, this didn't work, let's try a completely different strategy we have. For Arial, it was micro adjustments. They changed a few things here and there. Most importantly, they extended a little bit more on the top floor, trying to take the fight to Wildcard, not allowing them to condense upon that top floor, and it worked perfectly. That's something that we needed to see from Arial, and something I am happy to say Poison did nearly perfectly. Not calling off everything they had prepped prior, just making a small change here and there, conditioned to the team-specific team, of course, in this case, Wildcard Aces. Now onto the attacking side, not too much out of the ordinary here for Arial. I think this is the most normal attacking setup I've ever seen. Jackal, Ace, Thatcher with the Iana Ashe composition. It's about as straightforward as things can get. I'm also interested to see how they plan to use the Cade. You have to expect Cade tricking, considering, right? Hopefully, maybe, please.
Cade tricking, one of those fun little things. Right, a little bit aggressive on the staircase, despite the fact he's still got one claw in pocket. So you're hoping he stays alive to use it. He's going to back up, though. I am intrigued to see that there's much less going into the hold for main stairs from the side of Wildcard Aces. Freak already in a position by Lamps. You don't swing it now, right? Just hold your position, hold your ground, play it chill, mate. Look at the rest of the lineup, though. You got that mirror, again, brilliant for gathering yourself the information. They've gone with their classic double window setups that you can play very comfortably inside of Aviator, and with things like the Goyo, that time burn is going to be immense later on into the round. So it's just keeping members alive on this defense, keeping your key positions up and steady, just so that when it comes down to that last minute, the attack really now has to start worrying about when these fires are going to start popping. JJ just setting another one off to make sure they can't walk in through study door just yet, as we're now starting to hear that hard breach ticking away, a little bit of space moving in for Arial Arise. There's a very late rotation from Quartz here.
This is a slow take as well for Arial Arise. Quartz on this far master setup wants to try and clear Bry out of position, but the problem is they don't have all that much help to do so. How does Bry win that? Freak has to be looking at his phone or something for Bry to be able to walk over that and still be able to come back. Asian playing through the Selma breach that Bry just completely did not note. And Bry got away with murder in the first on that one. That is a wild engagement for him to come out on top.
I'm just baffled. Just don't turn your back, mate. But Riot, holding onto mainstay as well, gets the next pick onto Asian as well, so you lose your Thatcher. I'm sure the work was done. Kiru, again, playing on that deployable shield, grabs another. Riot just gorging himself by the main stairs. It's Atom the next to fall, and Poison just finds himself on the worst side of the 1 versus 4, just trying to clean things up in this round. Does grab a quick kill onto Kiru, and now walks on through. The proximity alarm going to give himself away, and Bino drawing that long angle through the popped mirror windows, just to finish off the round in pretty tidy fashion for the side of Wildcard Aces on their first offensive round.
They should also be fairly happy with that. Bar whatever the heck happened around the red stairs and the vault door, it was all in all a pretty good round. We'll just move on from that conversation, because even then, Arial Arise was still given most of that other side of the building control, with Quartz still there on the Jackal. They knew nobody else was in the vicinity, but Wildcard was still happy to play what they knew around those mirrors, and most importantly, around the utility they'd previously set up. The prox was basically the icing on the cake, just to give away the walk-in around that. What's the word, Scott? Something
bricks, man-made, construction, Italian. Those are the only words that come to mind. Just generally, those are the only words I can ever think of on a daily basis. But specifically, I mean, Villa. I forget where in Italy it's actually set, but it's something. Tuscany, that's it. Assassin's Creed and that jazz in it. That's how you navigate the streets of Italy. Same thing with San Francisco. Another, Watch Dogs getting me around there.
GTA for Los Angeles.
Yeah. It's always good fun when you hear stories like that. I had a mate who went to San Francisco and his family got lost, and that's unironically how they unlost themselves, because he recognized the building from Watch Dogs 2. So Ubisoft boosting the geography knowledge of all of us youngsters. It's wonderful stuff.
Love to see it. Arial Rise, I think, trying to boost their own topography knowledge of Villa here.
Nice.
Especially considering Wildcard Ace's defensive setup that we see changing a little bit. Still something similar. I also like the fact that Asian, considering we've seen Arial Rise ban out the Nook a little bit more recently, they still play it when it is available. And Asian's doing so on the bottom floor, droning himself in, also having some support from the rest of the team, and basically the entire bottom floor is theirs. Asian's happy to just sit here for a while. There's no real reason to over-aggress at this point, and Arial Rise has a lot of real estate that Wildcard may not have accounted for just yet.
Yeah, and just closing off some of these doors as they fall back off of their roam, recognizing it's going to be a vertical push, but you don't just want to give the space freely, right? You chalk up these barricades, you buy a little bit of time, you give that extra bit of sound cue, so if the rotation comes through from Arial Rise and they decide they want a little bit more space, we see Courts going for something like he did on the Jackal before, where he just comes from the complete opposite side of the map, you have that assurance. Getting the wall open on up, the next EMP charge coming in to deny that trick, but going prone, going to try and get close up on the wall, but does he know he's on the right-hand side of the breach, spots the head through the little window, and now has to be a little bit careful. Habana's right on the other side of the wall, and Poison will grab the pick.
Oh, but that EMP effect now dissipates, and Poison was taking some damage from the now regenerated Electro Claw, something I don't think he was really accounting for. But still a decent setup for Arial Rise. That bottom floor pressure will now look to set in, alongside Adam here on the trophy entrance. Kier's going to look to cross here and will lose their life because of it. A follow-up on the JJ, and that may very well be the round. The shot back from Bino to bring at least one kill back, but he now needs the ace with the SMG-11 in hand. Is being flanked from the 90 hallway, is apparently aware of it, but still can't win the fight. The casual walk-up from Asian, and the FMG-9 to close out the round. It's Arial Rise back with their 2-round advantage.
It's a very clinical assault, right? They get that control of Master. There's a lot less contention. In fact, they triple reinforced off the Master bedroom wall, right? Which is something we're seeing more and more teams lean
ACJ
into playing right up. It was coming. It was coming. We're seeing more and more teams, right? They open the left panel. That's been a classic for the exact reason of, like, there's so much space inside a Master bedroom that you don't want to give the attack. So you open it up, you create these longer angles where even if you're not actively playing them, there's just that question mark around it. You can't just walk up and assume that you're going to be safe with it triple reinforced off. They can put themselves in that position. You see Poison just walking right up onto that wall. They have the space below, so they know there's no nitro cells being set down. They know there's no pulse who's going to blow you up from beneath. That they've got that accounted for, they can just go on in, and they get that breach opened up, and you can see exactly what happens, right? With this hole inside of sight, the attack have a pathway in, they're playing by astronomy, they're preventing these rotations coming through. The angles are open. Look how quickly the members from Wildcard Aces fall away, and it leaves them in these unfortunate 1 versus 3, 1 versus 4 situations, and the defense, the attacks already know exactly where you are. You're going to get hunted down, you're going to get boxed in a corner, and you're going to lose.
I thought ACJ's effect on my gameplay extended to just ranked matches. As he said, it's now casting competitive play as well. This is all his fault. I can't. Odd setup as well here for Arial Rise. Poison's going to pick up the Montaigne, one of the better Montaigne players in North America, rivaled only by a couple of NAL players. But I'm a little curious to see how they set this one up. Obviously, you have the IQ to try and discern this information gathering, but at the same time, there's the Solus as the direct counter back the other way. So the weird spot here for Arial Rise is trying to find a way for that Montaigne to activate. Obviously no easy way to pick up a free avenue of attack. But as Poison just casually walks in, well, they've now found at least one player and a decent bit of utility to go along with it. Just mountain their way straight through this.
Lead the charge. He does have Diffuser in hand, so he has to be a little bit cautious, but, I'm a Shield enjoyer. I like to see a bit of Monty coming through, and Kira's just running. He doesn't want to deal with it. He's just not having it today. Atom does go down to a Nitro Cell from Bino, so no more IQ scans, but Freak upstairs gonna quickly grab a double. Quartz adds to the tally. Riot able to grab one back on the fadeaway and live with a sliver of HP. He's made it back to site.
Freak's still looking for this aggression. He's gonna take care of the Banshee. And Riot's still waiting this corner. Should be noted now by Poison. There's no way he survives this. He will not. Freak now onto a 3K, and JJ's left alone. Inside of Memorial, looking for a first fight onto Asian. Will find the player, but not the kill. And Freak makes it a 4K. Arial Arise now onto map point.
And little, unfortunate here, right? Especially considering, Wildcard's map pick. They want to come into this one strong. Give him a little plug. Just making sure that kill's gonna be seen there. Just rub it a little bit.
I mean, Asian said nice shot, JJ, when JJ missed like half the mag as he walked around the memo door. That's gotta hurt.
These are the two teams that I'd be expecting to get a little bit all chatty. I'm surprised it's taken us 9 rounds to see it, right? Like, yeah, these are the ones that are going to have a little bit of banter in the chat, and I'm sure for none of these players, it's going to mess with their game too much, being the players that are so used to sort of dishing it out themselves. Always nice to see a little bit back and forth in there. It's one of the things I really like is that we do actually get to see the all chat at all times. Some titles will hide it away, you don't get to see it. You rely on like Provision to see the little classic wonder what is even going on paint screen during LEC, but here we just get it all out in front of you to see.
I also was expecting like a round 2 spawn peek into a get dusted.
Yeah.
To start
off.
I mean,
like 9 rounds is realistically, guys, pick it up, right? Like we need to be seeing this a little bit earlier on, but it started now. Big lineup change here from Arial Arise, just changing a whole host of operators. Still keeping pretty standard in their lineup though, right? They've got a Yana, the Sledge, the Ashe, the classic trio. Bring in your Hard Breacher, bring in your Thatcher, you're good to go.
This is almost the exact same composition we saw them bring in the first round of this overtime, or this second half as well. But instead it's Adam picking up the Sledge instead of the Iana, and Quartz instead of the Jackal we saw earlier taking Adam's Iana. And I'm honestly interested as to why they made this switch specifically. Overall, the composition seemed fairly decent, and Sledge doesn't do all that much, considering it's the Aviator game's hold. The extent of what I would expect them to try is maybe a lateral take with more soft reach, but even then, you don't really...
Yeah, my first thought is I kind of prefer something with nades. For that reason, right? Quartz on the Jackal last time didn't have access to it. Bino quickly to grab the pick onto Poison back. You lose your Hard Breacher, but the way the setups worked, not going to be too much of importance as Asian very swiftly grabs that kill back onto the Mutant side of sight and also onto the top performer for Wildcard Aces so far, just silently grabbing kills left, right and center. Now it's going to rely on the rest of the team to step up just a little bit more to finish off this round to keep the map open. Ryan, JJ, you want to see them try and get involved in a little bit of gunfire here as they're both kind of tagged up around main stairs, waiting to see what's coming through. Arial Arise, plenty of time to reconsider their options, just getting the drone information coming in, sees the shoulder, sees the arm, a little bit of damage onto Riot, takes a bit back as well, and now just the stalemate going to just last a little bit longer over here.
The problem is they have to give up a lot of that real estate. Asian gets downed courtesy of Riot on those brown stairs. Freak seeing one fall back to site is actually just going to walk in, and there's not a whole lot that Wildcard Aces have to shut him down in his endeavor. There's nothing in terms of utility on the site. Riot is so low inside a vault, but they're actually able to freely swing from that same door. This is a lot of real estate back the other way, but Adam's proactive swing turns a kill back, and it's down to just Riot in 1 versus 3. With the 9 mil in hand, they will find one, and only one to turn it into a 1 versus 2. The diffuser is not in pocket. It finally is retrieved and is now being put down on the site itself. Riot is trying for this aggression inside a study. They're being held from the vault door, as Adam will not let them swing, Quartz will swing themselves, and Arial Arise will take Villa.
And, we heard a little bit of speculation from the desk saying if they don't take Villa, it's going to be a difficult series for them now. You're looking at, a little bit of a harder task for Wildcard. It's going to need all 3. Did you say it? They like their attacks. They have a higher win percentage on attack than defense. I think they'll be looking forward to this one in the sense that, they're a team that will never count themselves out. They'll always see themselves having an opportunity, having an angle for victory, and they will take it, which is something, it's always great to see, and it means you get more entertaining games. Border, a little bit scary, though. I have to admit, not my favourite map in the pool. Just a bit small, a bit chaotic, and that makes a very entertaining siege to watch. So, have that what you will. It's going to be fun, it's going to be interesting, and especially with the bans immediately coming out, Wildcard cutting away that Ying, it's something we saw them try out themselves in Villa, but with how small and how condensed Border is, you heard the desk say it, right? You can so easily apply pressure onto defense from sitting outside, you throw in Candelas, you just jump on into sight. You see teams bring their glass here sometimes if they're feeling a particularly little bit spicy. Normally that's coming out sort of the APAC region, but you never know. You can take influences from everywhere. Osa ban, again, a very common one here for Border. That one makes a fair bit of sense. Just to try and reduce the ability to hold some of these longer angles down some of the key corridors.
Set up here as well for Arial Rise. Banning out the Azami, nothing out of the ordinary for them, but the Ying and Osa attacking bans is really where I want to set my focal point. The Ying is an understandable one on such a condensed map, that massive amount of just plain denial. You have 2 smokes and 4 candelas to use, which are basically just repeated flashes that envelop a room.
Yes.
And the Osa, in combination with that, is a lot of real estate control on just a single operator because it's a placeable shield. It's like a Montaigne, but a little bit better later on in a round. I'd like to see Arial Rise play a little bit more patient on this attack, but Wildcard's defense, I think he got something for me.
I mean, it's going to be a bit of a fun one, right? You've seen that Oryx come out once again, right? Likes to lean into it when he can, get a little bit of flexibility on that roam, some big hatches you can try and flank around on, and with Border being as small as it is on the defensive end of things, you really want to extend and make your presence as big as possible. Again, just to it's like the opposite of Villa. It's like the complete opposite. Villa, you spread out, you meet people early on, but if you want to play around sight, you can, because there's so much space that the attack have to drone through, have to clear through, have to take, have to open up walls. Border, they're right up next to you, so you've got to just make sure that it's difficult to get in. You see teams extend into CCTV, they'll give themselves roaming options. You see things like castles come out at times, and that's part of the reason for this is army ban. Arial Rise want to make it very easy for them to take the first step of their attack, because once you get control of CCTV, or if you get control of Office, if you're going from the back side of things, you can very easily start to put a lot of pressure onto site.
I also appreciate the Bandit in the not awkward or odd way, but a significantly different way that he's being played on this setup as well, trying to flex a little bit more towards that Office side and hold down more off-site control than just directly over towards the main armory wall as you usually see electricity utilized. They're also opening up that far half of the main armory wall. I think Macy J is rolling over in his bed right now. This is probably half asleep, but Arial Rise's attack is fairly well set up for this. They have a decent bit of soft breach, obviously the hard breach to go along with it. They don't have any impact EMPs, which is one thing I'm a little bit concerned about, but they do have that variability and flexibility they should need.
Get a bit of wall opened up early on, give themselves the option to go down and explore below should they want to. Right, still holding on inside of CCTV and using their dashes, not for destruction, but just for that pure speed, just to get away a little bit, get back to safety. And then right back into position again, just going back and forth. Look, if we don't know what he's doing, how are Wildcard supposed to know? With the information, and I mean, it's going to pay off for them, right? It grabs the quick kill onto Poison, Kiru grabs one onto Kurtz as well, and now Asian just going to commit, jumping through the Prisma, give himself away a little bit, but does get the kill. Bry close enough to sort of keep things very much in favor for the Wildcard Aces on this opening round. And very early, you're seeing what happens. Your kill box. And Kiru, playing from the top of stairs, does get one quickly traded out yet again. Asian doing a lot of work in this round, but it's going to need to be an ace clutch here if they want to win the first round of Border. And I hate to be a naysayer, but I don't see it.
He got the down. I don't think he knows it, though, and that's a problem. We'll break the barbed wire and at least create a little bit of space for himself. But that's a lot of time that Asian has to bleed off the clock Follow-up shot almost on Nabino, but now has a way into the site. C4 over top only does a negligible amount of damage, and now Asian has found a different way forward. The shield, however, will hinder his aggression, and the shots across will shut him down entirely. Wildcard, healthy way back into the round, and most importantly, the opening kills in their favor. They stabilize, and they walk away with an opening round victory.
Yeah, and again, Wildcard Ace is just doing that job of opening up the map, having that presence that reaches across the whole floor, so that when Arial Arise try to walk on into CCTV, they're being met by so many angles, and that's how you play it, right? You make a very small room feel very large, very difficult to contest back against, and kind of spread your presence out as much as possible while investing very little to that side of the map. It was basically just Riot, with everyone else playing long angles to support, and it worked out very well for them. And now, looking at Arial Arise Academy, back to the drawing board. It's going to be a different site. It's going to be Bathroom and Tellers. And, I mean, this one, again, one that the attack kind of has a little bit of work cut out for them to do here. You do want to get above. You do want to get that space. You can start applying vertical down into sight. But I'd very much expect Wildcard Aces to be kind of spreading themselves out on this middle floor. They are going to make sure that, yes, you can get above sight, but we're still going to be having all these long angles that you are going to have to contend with before you can apply that pressure to sight itself. And if the overcommit comes through from Arial Arise, there's a good chance that long angles being drawn out, crossfires, pressure from above, make that, again, very killboxy.
5 seconds left.
Similar situation here for Arial Arise as well to the previous round. I think they are changing up some of their lineup though, allowing them. I talked about the variability. That Buck and Dokebi combination is something that they, I think, could have used in the previous round to whittle out some of that utility and I think most importantly, action gathering. That was a good move here for Wildcard. Obviously, Dokebi needs a little bit of a nerf. The Mark 14 is kind of nuts, but removing dead players from cameras for 20 seconds, come on, man.
That's scary, man. Scary change.
Sorry. Tangent I need. But Arial Arise are still happy with this. And again, minor changes for them. Poison, good calls here. I'd like to see how the Dokebi plays out for them. And most importantly, how they try and play around the extra information they're gathering.
Well, it's going to start. Bit of a jail wall has been opened up. They're bring the drones on through. Kiru just wandering around. So far hasn't run in 21, but with the first logic bomb being deployed by Asian, they are going to have to answer the call before returning back to your regularly scheduled roaming. Shoots out a drone, backs off a little bit, and Riot also looking to try and come downstairs. There's not too much going on from Arial Arise to up above just yet. And that's kind of giving a little bit of time for Wildcard Aces just to figure out where they want to be. I say that as a Nitrocell comes through very cleanly from JJ and gets the opening pick for them here. And now they're anticipating the push coming through in towards Archives. The flashbang's forcing them back. A little bit of damage done onto Quartz, though.
That's not enough, though. The C4 all ready to negate a follow-up from Riot onto Adam. That Thatcher being taken out, sure, one kill back the other way, but Quartz doesn't have an easy way in. Does take out that castle barricade with the Gon 6 rather than the 9mm as a secondary weapon, but an odd position now for Arial Arise to be in. A 2 versus 4, again, not unheard of. We've seen these win rounds before. But Quartz needs to drop, will almost certainly do so at least for some sound cues, if not to their direct demise, with a swing from Bathroom, a first found from Bino, and a second to follow up and clean out the round. Wildcard, neat and tidy, to give themselves a second in a row.
Well, good job from them, and again, it's just keeping up this defensive pressure, right? And I have to say, I think the biggest thing for me here is we're not seeing Arial Arise have this sort of coordination that we saw from them on Villa previously. On Villa, on their attacks, we were seeing them move around the map, get in positions where they're opening up walls, they're creating these long opportunities for angles to be drawn, for gunfights to go in their favor, to put players in positions where when they move, they're going to be exposed to 2 or 3 different attackers. That's something that you can do brilliantly on Border. It's one of the greatest ways to play it as an attacker, right? You can sit outside, you can sit kind of far away, open up some walls, play far back, and collect the kills as you slowly push in together as a unit. And that's what we're really struggling to see. Look at the last round. Solace, upstairs, by Fountain. Very free to sit inside of Archives for a bit, peek in towards Quartz. There's no one else pushing through Armory, starting this sweep from CCTV to force this uncomfortability. Riot is free to walk around each stairs because he isn't needed to be in a supporting position on the other side. there needs to be a little bit more coming in from Arial Arise to work together to push for these opening picks. They're bringing Lions or Dokkaebis. I mean, they've just changed off the line, but they had Dokkaebi in the last round. I'm not seeing them get the good value out of these logic bombs as the information gathering tool that they can be.
I always like the term actionable information. Sure, you can use logic bombs whenever you want, but if you're not in the general vicinity to play off of that information you're gathering, why try it? It's not like it's going to change the round by any means. If you have a general inkling somebody's around a corner, and then you call them just to make sure they are in that general vicinity, and then you kill them, that is actionable intel that you can turn into frags. But if you're just calling just to call and say, oh, is anybody in the general vicinity? Somebody may be there, so I'm going to call. That's not something that's useful on a consistent basis. First nade is caught by a magnet and is denied, so no extra availability to create some space there. Arial Rise, though, I think that was their main weakness in the previous round, just calling to call, and no extra information to go off the back of it. Sure, drone, call, frag, that's a good string of events. Something has to change this time around if they want to have any extra availability forward.
Well, that's the opening pick, finally going in favor of Arial Arise, and again, you can see Freak starting to use some of these longer angles set up by the defense. The mirror window for Bino going to be removed now by a quick placement of the Selma, and avoids taking any damage from the swing that followed it. Gotta be very careful hiding behind Fountain, but Freak just reads into it, and there's no support from inside of Armory to punish him. Asian grabs the third pick, JJ goes down, and now you're looking at Riot and Bry, both above the site here, Dan. Site's exposed, they can push down, but it also makes a lot of sense to try and just finish clearing off these last two defenders.
Riot will mask the drop with shooting the MP7, but by no means are they safe. They're going to walk into the main door and find the kill into Asian, so one kill has been brought back, but again, an ace clutch required. This time it's Riot up against it rather than a member of this Arial Rise attack, and Adam will shut that down. The 5.52 Commando, in a commanding fashion, will give Arial Rise their first here on border.
And again, it's just playing outside, watching some of these longer angles, waiting for members of Arial Rise to step out, just of Wildcard step out. Ariel just slowly applying a touch more pressure here, a little bit more. Oh, we'll take a little bit of an inch forward. Okay, now we have our CCTV control. Let's get away this mirror window. We'll check the Selma on it. We have 90 control. They can't shoot it off. The window's open. We take a little bit of a swing. We get a pick. Like, this is exactly what we've seen from Arial Rise previously. It's good to see them back in that motion, and I'm hoping they can continue that form for the last 3 attacking rounds. Because what we expected to see from them here on Border, it's their map pick, and it's, you know, what we want to see the best possible match of Siege.
I also appreciate the improvement there from Arial Rise. Again, boiling down to minor improvements being required, but still coming through when needed. And in that round specifically, I was talking about, hey, using the calls in a better fashion. If you know somebody's there, try and distract them. Remove their sound cues. Remove their availability to look at cams or have cameras assist them. And in that round, I think it worked fairly well. The Dokkaebi calls only really directly impacted 2 of the 5 kills found, but that still direct impact was better than what was seen previous, which was very little, to be completely honest with you. Wildcard now having to recuperate some of their losses will not change all that much about their top floor setup, but honestly, really don't have to. Arial Rise, however, bringing in Asian on the Lion and Adam's Twitch as well, and only one of them surprisingly bringing the V17 or the 417.
Right, back up in position in CCTV. Another classic, long angles again, opened up. So you're seeing the same sort of play coming out from the Wildcard Aces, as to be expected. They want it out before, why change it if it ain't broke? I know it's a very botched version of the saying, but you have to roll with it. Now Freak, just trying to get this drone in position outside on the north balcony to just gather a little bit of information. There's a couple head height holes. If someone swings out, you might be able to gather something from that. A little bit of a risky play there, swinging so openly when you know Bry is willing to take these gunfights, and Riot moving into a position to be able to watch from the doorway, the smoke not dropping deep enough in, or dropping too deep in I should say, to not cover off this double doorway.
Asian, the first one to die though. Big pickup for Riot, and that's a lot of real estate also back the other way. A follow-up from Riot. Poison, I thought, had that one dead to rights. Instead, is dead in and of his own right. And now Riot, not done with this fight. A follow-up from Kiru is there, but the trade's finally back for Arial Rise. 2 for 3 overall in the round. And Adam, still trying to clear out CCTV, has some help from Freak, but Freak is just on site. Well, now he's dead on site.
try as they might, not going to work out. Atom, lovely little tap. You love to see that. DMR squad represented very, very pleasantly here. And, well, moving in with the P9. Going to go back onto the 417. Give a bit of a reload. 2 members to find here. And, well, looking for the first one. Moving through office, very aware of what could be pulled out from these head height holes, dropping out the drone and spots one, but it's shot out very quickly by Riot, which will deny good information onto Bino. The second drone may be able to get into a slightly better position to get it, though, as it is shot out as well. Fuser downstairs, though, so it's going to buy a lot of time if they want to go and recover it. You're looking to just commit to these gunfights instead, but if one of those defenders is lurking in the corner, you're never going to find them. Both are upstairs. It's about if they can find the way to swing together at the same time to find the final pick onto Atom, who's so close in proximity to Beeper's giving away. He gets a triple kill and he's looking still for Pino, swatching the pistol, and he gets it! He gets it with the pistol! The proximity alarm went off. They know exactly where he's supposed to be, but they can't line up the swing.
There's no shot. Wait, no way.
Does he have a skin?
They're calling a skin.
Yeah, it looked funky, I'll tell you that much. The little arm, when he pulled out the drone, it looked funky, but... Is that...
Bro.
That's
I can't believe it.
If that's true, that's heartbreaking.
I'm trying to look at the... we have the 3-minute delay. I'm looking at the skin right now, seeing if we have a top-down view of it, because it was the Twitch.
It was the Twitch, and it definitely could have been funky, but
yeah, it didn't look like the normal Twitch skin. The right arm was certainly something that was not your normal GIGN baseline. That's for sure. This is an odd situation because obviously the skin call is valid if it is Wind Bastion. And the fact that you can just casually dissect what Wind Bastion skins look like off the top of your head is astounding. Well done, Wildcard.
Or the fact that you can't see it. That's how you know it's Wind Bastion. That's really more how it goes, right? You get shot by a ghost in the wall and you're like, classic Wind Bastion moment. Just how it be sometimes. But, I mean, either way, I think the way that round panned out, if that's the case, Wildcard kind of fortunate to get away with that, considering in the 2 versus 1, you got to have a better plan for that. And I mean, I know they're waiting for the sound to jump on a swing together, but it was a botched job coming out from the 2 of them. And, I mean, hey, you take what you can get, right?
I mean, a round's a round, no matter really how you come about it. I'm looking at Adam right now in this 2v3, and I can't really see a skin considering he's ADS for the predominant part of spectating him.
It's generally how you shoot people, though.
Yeah, I mean, well, maybe you. I like to shoot people on ADS with a shotgun in hand. Yeah.
I was about to say, you rock the shotgun, you don't need ADSing. Just like my left mouse button. Wait, left mouse button.
He totally he had Wind Bastion.
Oof.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm like 98% sure that is not a default nor legal skin. We'll get an obvious ruling from our admins who are working in the background. Hence the reason we are not on the game right now, and possibly set things up at 3-1. Considering that's how things would end if this does hold up, and that 1v3 from Adam would be completely torn apart. It was the correct call, I think, in my personal opinion. I want to get yours on this one, to go for this really aggression in the 1v2, no matter whether it works or not with the Wind Bastion skin. But they didn't go for the diffuser because, honestly, they didn't have time, and if they did, it would have been costly more than it would have been worth anything. And naturally, sure, you can say, oh yeah, it's a tactical first-person shooter, go for the tactical play, but yeah,
I'm with you on this.
Just,
I think
that's unfortunate.
You're in a position that you have to sweep site first. I think it makes the most sense, right? He could walk through the rotation from Fountain, go down Metal, grab Diffuser. You grab Diffuser, and you've got 50 seconds on the clock, right? Let's say it takes you 30 to run down, and let's be generous, say 20, to run down, grab Diffuser, get back to top Metal. You're now in the same position, but you now have 30 seconds left on the clock instead. It's just a little bit harder to deal with, and I think looking for that aggression, trying to grab those kills, is the right call there. You sweep site, you do what you can, and if there's one player left, you know he's going to be somewhere near that diffuser. You just have to try and race time, but it's always going to be a bit peak in that situation.
Well, unfortunate part, since we have the tech call, we're going to send things to a break, make sure things are dissected in the background, and when we come back, it's either, well, 3-1 for Wildcard, and their skin dispute works, or it's back to 2-2, and Arial Rise uphold their 1v3. Even though the team itself hasn't been seen since the closed qualifiers of Season 4 of SFCL, the play-by-the-rules mantra still lives on in Season 6's playoffs, as the skin dispute does go Wildcard Ace's way. It was a Wind Bastion skin, as correctly seen on stream, so the admins have ruled it as such and given Wildcard Aces the round. We move on to round number 5, with them now up 3-1, and Arial Arise now having to come back from that now win that was mitigated, and having to do so in a little bit more of dire straits on the attacking side of Border.
Yeah, Border attack, if you end it 3-3, you're like kind of okay with that. You want to be trying to push for as many as possible. So for Arial Arise, it's going to be about keeping a clean last 2. And look, they were still in that 1 versus 3 situation. So, you know, despite that valiant effort from Atom, that kind of caused some issues. Look, Wildcard Aces realistically, in most rounds, are going to be able to clean that one out. And for the most part of that round, did play better than their opponents in Arial Arise. And so they're in this 3-1 position now. It's all on Arial Arise to see how they can make a change to try and break through. And the first step for that is, well, they're not bringing the Dokkaebi, they're not bringing the Lion. Asian jumping back onto that IQ, and I think I'm intrigued a little bit by the use of the IQ here. Is the main thing just catching Bry on this Solace? That's the active gadget that I can see you're looking for. Valkyrie, Black Eye's not going to be an issue. No Yokai's on the table.
Some Good Jammers and proximity alarms,
Yeah.
C4s, and a bulletproof. And then Bry as a person.
Just Bry. Just chase him.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the old movie Hunter Killer, if anybody's ever seen that. Great movie, by the way.
I've not seen that one.
It's about like the U.S. Navy and submarines and Soviet Russia. It's a long story. So Arial Arise's attack with that availability to just try and hunt down Bry and some of their defensive utility is a good setup. And if Asian doesn't fully dedicate themselves only to the utility, I think it's a good composition they can use, because the 5.52 is a really good gun. Let's be. But Arial Arise, I think if you dedicate yourself too much to that one dimension of your attack, that's when you're going to start to have some issues. You can see Bry right back on this top floor in a similar position to what we've seen from them prior. And, well, they're just continually playing with that Spec IO sensor. Happy to play for information alongside, knowing it is a top over clear. Can they take that aggression?
And I like what we're seeing from Arial Arise, a little bit better than what they've done in the past when attacking onto the bathroom tellers, because they are putting a little bit more pressure onto Armory early on. Now it's going to be a case of what can they get behind the lineup of this defense, and you're already seeing a kind of fall back away, dropping down into sight, because they got Quartz just starting to put that pressure on from behind, and that's great. They've taken this top floor control, they can continue their sweep through, but I don't think they have full information. The officer's clear. I say that as immediately they're walking into it, so great job from Arial to make sure they are keeping up the pace, and they get a grab quick kill onto Riot from outside the window as well, so nice little rotation there just to be in a position.
Arial Rise is patiently taking across as well. With that kill into Riot, now a follow-up onto Bino, they're more than happy to just allow some of this time to fall away. They don't want to over-aggress. A follow-up C4 does miss, so the extent of utility in terms of denial of any kind is down to guns, and then the 2 impacts on Bry, and obviously the Spec IO sensor itself. Naturally, they do have some Vulcan canisters remaining. They need to be able to expend those at the correct time to limit Arial Rise's flexibility on this attack. But the problem will continue to arise if they cannot find that aggression. The swing forward with that Bry Solus is just cut away, and even though there is a return, Kiru's position should be well known. JJ sitting inside of Passport's in an odd position and is now dropped by Asian, and it's down to the Goyo, who's been seen prior in Asian with the 5.52. Clean gun, as I mentioned, finds a 3K. Here's Arial Arise bring it back.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of the 5.52 putting in work. I mean, hey, look, it's what you pick an IQ for, you know, like scan 5.52. But ultimately, Arial Arise bouncing back after the bit of a pause in much better form, and maybe that was just what they needed. They just needed a little bit of that fire underneath them to really inspire these attacks. But everything just went better for them. The clear started off well. They started moving through the map, they cleared out their top floor, they had a player behind to pinch, try and catch off anyone that fell back. They netted themselves that opening kill onto Riot doing just that. They use a top floor control to force defenders out of these key positions, make them uncomfortable inside of sight while starting to apply that pressure on the horizontal, starting to walk through and take this control inside of vents, for example. Brilliant stuff. lovely to see them do. And now Wildcard Aces, for the final round of their defensive half here on Border, are going to rerun Bathroom Tellers. So, Arial Arise, they have the script, they have the formula, exactly what they need to do here. They will need to change a little bit though, because I'm sure Wildcard Aces will have a change coming in to make it a little bit harder for the same thing to occur twice in a row. Inside of Arial Arise, keep it up though, boys, keep it up.
This is an odd switch up as well. Wildcard Aces have arguably just brought in a weaker Solus, that being Kiru on the Mozzie instead of the Goyo we saw from them in the previous round. And then Bria's made the switch onto the Warden, and there wasn't a single set of flashes or stuns or anything to warrant the Warden unless you just want the 1.5. Well, it turns out Kiru did, as they run out with the P10 in hand and find an opening kill. Asian's dead. He found a 3K in the previous round, and is now no opportunity to do so once more. That's a big pickup. I don't think you really needed to make the switch on towards the Mozzie to make it, though.
I mean, I think here it's just like, grab the Mozzie, deny a little bit of information, play for that stall. I think the Goyo, you can take it or leave it, really, right? And we saw there wasn't this sort of rush play that you bring in the Goyo to sort of deny, you put it on the barricaded window, so they can't just jump straight into sight and try and stick a plant down behind Soda. This is all pretty smart, but you got to be careful now. The rotation hole, Mozzie's still lurking around, and very close to getting an angle onto the feet, down to the legs of Kiru as he's rotating off. So I have to be very careful, because he's turned around, and he's just going to get shot from above. I thought it'd be from behind, but it's actually above. Right, upside an armory that gets it, and this take from Arial Arise a little bit slower, and oh my days. Right, just grabbed himself a freebie on the second one. JJ adds to the scoreboard, and we're looking at a 1 versus 5 here, things falling apart very, very swiftly for Arial Arise.
Quartz is going to 1v5 this. I've never seen Quartz lose a 1v5. Asian says in bathroom. I mean, he's not entirely incorrect. He's right next to the bathroom walk-in, sitting in the teller's vending side, but this is just a tactical timeout, honestly. Quartz should just be able to patiently sit here. The spray does miss, albeit by a few inches at best, but Quartz is going to walk in, should die from above, and does indeed. Riot's going to clean him out, and Wildcard do make the minor adjustment work. Granted, it was the aggression walking forward that really worked for them. Warden or not, I think that still would have gone in their favor, but I like the minor adjustment. Sure, Warden's overall utility wouldn't have been all that useful, but the MPX with the 1.5, pretty good if I do say so myself.
Just a case of, like, just grab a good gun. I mean, like, there's always been this sort of interesting back and forth between, like, how much do you play into an operator for strategy and how much for the sake of good gun. And it's just like, you know what? Sometimes good gun.
Me when I play a Rooney for the Mark 14.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not running your solo queue games for the Saria Gate, right? You're, like, let's be right, it ain't happening. You're just grabbing it because you got the fist to punch through barricades, runouts galore, or rotations galore, I guess. Smack the hatch and dip away in a blink of an eye. A nice gun. Wonderful little bit of stuff. I think here, though, it worked out for them well. And now we're moving on to that side swap. It's quite a different sort of style from Arial Arise. Again, something we saw a little bit before, right? This Doc Rook combination coming in. A Year 1 Season 1 classic. Back once again. I'm loving to see a bit more Doc get played.
5 seconds left.
We've seen Doc a lot more recently alongside the Rook as well, to allow for more sustainability on the defensive side.
Bailiff's great now as well.
Yeah, and honestly, the combination of that and viable utility as secondary utility, impacts are pretty useful. Obviously, bulletproof cameras are pretty good as well. So all in all, the combination of decent primary utility in terms of health availability, with obviously being able to withstand extra 20 HP, plus if you go low whatsoever, you're back up to max within a blink of an eye. Like Freak, for instance, he's going to fall back, Quartz is going to bring it back to 165 health, because why not?
Free health's always good. So I always like the Clash strat on Cafe, where you like stand on Pixel, you have like the Doc and the Rook. Doc plays on white stairs and just pumps you with stims. It's just like, that's the best feeling ever. Like, they finally get you low, they invest like nades and asphyxiation bolts from Capital and the fear concussive blast, and then you're just like, haha, back to full. Come at me now. But no Clash this time. Instead, they do have an Echo, which is another near and dear operator. Yokai's been deployed out to try and gather some information. Kiru taking some damage, just trying to fight for that first entryway into the building. And again, you're seeing this sort of aggressive stance from the defensive side of things, making life very difficult for the attackers. Kind of playing into the opposite of what an attacking player wants to do. You want to apply that pressure from the outside to slowly whittle away at the line of defense. Instead, the defense preventing you from walking up. Asian looking for a double kill. Bright finally able to shut that down. Go even on the trades. But with this constant revitalization coming in from Courts, the health advantage is in the favor, and Kiru falls swiftly down. Not really in a position to get grabbed immediately. The team will be looking to try and recover this line, get those E1D scans back if possible. But Atom, still, just getting aggressive.
Riot has to try and take this fight as well. They can't afford to just go for that res because they're worried about the run out. Freak gets down and will be finished off, so Riot's able to find that confirmed kill on the bottom floor. And the man advantage, sure, is there for Wildcard, but their health pool is significantly lacking. Adam's somehow going to be able to just casually reinforce the fountain wall and get that off as they back away. But Arial Arise's disengage here is just for patience and possibly catching off this attack. I'm pretty sure they have droned out that flank setup for Poison, who's sitting inside of office, but if they don't have that information, Wildcard's going to be significantly lacking as they push for this final hold.
Well, Poison does grab the kill back. Yep, exactly. Net the kill onto Kiru, and I also really like that they use these late reinforcements to just kind of funnel the Wildcard aces. There's 20 seconds left on the clock, and yes, Poison is very low, but with Yoko inside of sight, it's still available for them. Quartz gets one back on the trade, but Brian knows exactly where that Echo is in the corner. And now it's down to Quartz to try and fight for his life on the doorway. Finds one, but Riot coming in behind is able to trade out with Brian through the doorway to get an attacking round win again in here for Wildcard.
1-for-1 back, and they've brought it back. Wildcard now on a tear. And looking good doing it, especially on the attacking side in that round. They really identified the weak points of the Arial Arise defense and then continually picked apart at it until there just was no more. Arial Arise in another uncharacteristic way also got a little over-aggressive. We saw a little bit of that back on Villa, and it wasn't a good showing. If that happens again, that's when you're going to start to get concerned. Because Arial Arise, they weren't all that far behind. It was a 3v4, sure, but some of that aggression just wasn't warranted. And off the back of it, they lost the round in a significantly more definitive fashion than I think they would have otherwise, to the point where Poison was trying to play a little aggressive after that first kill. And Quartz, alongside it, really didn't have to play all that further forward, considering they had assistance from Adam on that far side.
Well, you gotta be able to make the best of those opportunities, though, when they arise, right? And now, Wildcard get that round in, they're starting to look a little bit more comfortable, and it's kind of just in spite of that slower start that they had, the aggression coming out. A bit of blitz action here. Now, I love to see a bit of blitz coming through, and immediately, you see the blitz coming out on a ventilation attack. The first thought ringing in my ear here. I'm expecting them to be jumping in through that front doorway, trying to get JJ on that blitz next to the table, put the diffuser down in the doorway. But instead, they're going for the back side of things instead. They aren't going to go for a full clear, so they're not fully committing to a roam here.
I'm wondering what the heck Bino's doing. Are they going to pull the Copper 5 moment? And oh my gosh, they're going to use this to try and open up the reinforced wall. This is similar to that setup back on Theme Park where you see people try and open up the break room entrance, and they're just going to completely collapse upon Asian, who still somehow wins the fight. And with assistance elsewhere, Arial Arise walks straight through this Wildcard attack, absolutely tearing them limb from limb, member from member, and Kiru left alone will be torn apart. What an adjustment from Arial Arise.
Yeah, they just kind of knew what was going on, right? Like they had the info. They knew. They just knew. And when you're coming through, you're trying to push into this space very quickly with that blitz taking point. They were a little bit confused as to where these players were, but the wraparound coming through, not enough control to shut down the main lobby. Got shot in the side by the mute for the flank. A little bit of cheeky little rotation there. Not really a flank. But things they never got that initial start, and losing the blitz early on, losing players behind the blitz as he's charging in on top of that. Like, the attack just never really stood much of a chance to get that initial foothold established. And Arial Arise taking a much-needed round here to just slowly drag these rounds back a little bit. Still a bit of cushioning for themselves here. They have some room to try and push this back. You never know. You could see the 7-5 scoreline come through if they're very clean with these next couple of defenses. But I don't think we're going to see the same sort of wildcard reckless aggression coming through now. I think we're going to see them go much more akin to the first round, where they are just sort of waiting out the initial aggression from Arial Rise. They'll try and catch out some of these members that overstep a boundary, that just kind of peek out the wrong way. They can find those kills, then start to collapse. That's going to be the game plan for them here.
I have to say, I think that's the first time I've unironically seen somebody outside of Copper 5 with 9 hours in the game use an exothermic charge on a barricade.
No, that's actually big brain. I'm going to back them up on this one. Okay, so...
No, I think it was a great call. Like, that was genius. But it's the first time I've seen it, like, ever.
I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not bashing him for it. That was actually geniusly smart, especially with the setup that Arial had. But
I now understand where you're coming from. Yes.
Okay.
Putting an exothermic on a barricade is a very Copper 5 move.
Out of that context, if they put it on the right side of the barricade, then we'd have some problems. But they didn't.
We would have many problems.
Well, Wildcard still, I think, happy with that attacking setup. It was smart, but Arial Rise, I think, flexed a little bit too much towards it. If somehow they don't find an opening kill there and drop away the blitz, then you're looking at a completely different round and Asian's dead. But it doesn't matter. We'll move on. Freak with the opening kill this time around. Kiru's dead. The Lion is gone, and a lot of that aggression now taken care of. Freak still wants to play aggressive, though, and will do so to a follow-up kill, looking for a third. Is anybody gonna look at this man? A 3-for-nil trade over towards the construction stairs, and Riot's in a 1v5. It has been 75 seconds, and Arial Rise win the round. They've brought it back to within 1 here on Border.
So I said that what we needed from Wildcard was them to patiently wait out the aggression. Arial Rise are going to walk forwards. They're going to look for these initial gunfights. And eventually, you'll get an opportunity where someone has peeked 5 different angles and seen nothing. They'll go for a 6th one, and you're actually back on angle number 2. Instead, Freak just dropped a bit of a masterclass on how you play aggressively from East. And Wildcard Ace is kind of forgetting that that's a very classic, standard, aggressive play on East, and fed into it a little bit. Now, look,
Defenders, protect your
there's always going to be the case of could have done this, should have done that. Had you done this thing, you wouldn't have lost the round. There was very little information, or there's very little information on Freak. And when he started getting a little bit aggressive, a little bit cheeky on the doorway, there was no effort made from Wildcard to sort of put a pin in it, to stop them doing anything. And instead, Freak just very quickly noticed, hey, I'm free to keep enacting out my revenge. I'm free to just go absolutely ham in this round. And even at the end there, they're just not anticipating the continued run out. Unfortunate, but that's just the case it goes, and Arial Rise grab a defensive win. Again, just off of early aggression that Wildcard just needed to wait out.
Arial Rise falling back on full with the Doc Rook composition. They apparently like the French operators do AA. We've seen them play all 4 of the GIGN with Twitch, Monty in map 1, Twitch earlier today, obviously, and then Doc Rook on both maps.
And Lion as well. I mean, he's not GIGN, but he was GIGN.
True. I don't think they've played Finka, though.
Finka was Spetsnaz.
Oh, so, okay, then they're not worried about it. They were released at the same time, though, right? I'm not crazy.
They were, yeah, they're part of the CIBRN. CBIRN.
That's a lot.
Forget. It's like the something incident response unit force, something like that. I know I literally didn't list any of the letters that those words start with, but it's something along those lines.
They're like the hazmat response team for Operation.
Yeah,
Here,
exactly,
right?
exactly. They're a separate thing. He's like moved on GIGN.
He's a more flexible GIGN. I suppose that's par for the course for Arial Rise at this point, considering how
French on tour
in these maps. Yeah, that. Kiru trying to play forward in towards East, trying to make up for the lost ground they dropped in the previous round. Adam wins that fight on the JJ. I thought Kiru picked up that first shot, but Freak doesn't want to give up the space just yet, and is still holding in towards break, but it really doesn't matter. Asian is down. The walk up from Riot is foregone, and okay, yeah, Bry's in a 1v4. Sure.
Throws Yokai in a 1v4.
This is bad.
Not ideal. Just, get downstairs, look for an angle. Still got a minute, so it's still doable, and, I take it back. He's dead. not really quite doable anymore. But again, Arial Arise, get aggressive. They're fighting you before you reach the building. This is how a border can be, right? Again, we talked about this coming in. It's small, it's enclosed, it's clustered, it's chaotic. And if you're not going to be careful walking up to the building, you have to expect, especially when it's already happened in 2 rounds previous to this, you just have to expect that Arial Arise are going to be up in your face. And again, just the respect isn't being shown here by Wildcards, and it's costing them here. And what was a pretty comfortable 5-2 lead has shrunk down, and now we're at a tied game.
Odd position as well for Arial Arise to be in. They will go back to Ventilation Workshop. Now, this site was not the best for them. Obviously still around victory last time we saw it, but it was an odd way to pick up a round, considering how far and away they tried to play. And yeah, Wildcard tried to bring something different. Aggress into Customs and Passport, and it just, let's be honest, did not work. But Arial Arise's defense on the site itself, I don't think is going to be determinant upon how a wild attacking setup that really will never be seen again worked or didn't work. I'm curious to see what Wildcard change. Dokebi this time around, we see a Sledge as well. Lion, I'm not going to say is a good or bad consistent factor of this, but I'm interested as to how they flex around what didn't work and what may very well work in the future.
Yeah, it's always like one of those fun little things. Like they're taking out the Thorn as well. How does that change things up? Asia now on the Legion instead. So, you know, that does impact the Blitz a little bit more if the Goo Mine goes in. I like to see these kind of changes conscious in, like, within mind, like what Wildcard have done, what might be suitable and replaceable while still filling similar sort of niche role. Good little bit of adaptation and flexibility once again coming out from Arial Arise, and this attack from Wildcard Ace is a lot more standard. They are going to try and clear out the rest of this top floor before moving in towards getting vertical pressure, and that's going to start off by opening up the wall on east, forcing Atom back, and with not too many players in a close proximity, not a lot of utility invested up inside of Office in particular, you're just falling way back. The reinforcement is just here to eat utility, force the rotation, force a little bit of effort in investment from the attack before falling back to the rest of your team for safety.
I think one main problem about this here as well for the Wildcard Aces is it's very one-dimensional. The walk-in from Bry is very easily read into from Arial Arise, and they find an opening kill off the back of it. Now they're very easily able to back away again, disengage, and play for other fights, possibly on another floor. They do not have to hold this longer than they already have. JJ walking forward is very lucky to be alive off the back of that swing, and is no longer. A follow-up from Freak, who's not done just yet, as the top floor is holding strong here on that Workshop Ventilation defense, and it's not done just yet. Riot will find 1 kill back the other way, but honestly an inconsequential one considering Asian's on the Legion, and is more than happy to say, yeah, bro, help your team. He's honestly in a different world.
Look, they have control of CCTV. There's a very easy rotation option for JJ to get round to the side. They've used impact EMPs on Kiru on that wall anyway, but there's no hard breach to be able to open it up. And it's kind of hurting them here. Bino does get a nice little punch hole to grab a kill onto Freak. Still more members upstairs inside of Armory. The diffuser recovered. But now's the question here, right? Do you commit to clearing these 2 players out? Do you go in blind and just try and win your ones? Or do you start to look low, play a little bit more around objective, taking a little bit of damage? And again, it doesn't matter if you get it back onto court. It's just going to heal on up, turn it around, got the kill onto Riot, get a kill onto Bino, and look, they've stolen the lead. They've stolen the lead.
Brief reminder, it was 5-2 just 4 rounds ago. It is no longer. Oh, Poison dropping in the same logo or same mantra we saw against the Hong Kong Rebels as well, being sent to the Chinese League. And Arial Arise, I have to commend them for a few separate aspects of their defense. Number 1, the flexibility. We saw them bring in something a little bit more different and extended, really just to bleed away that hold. But the most important part about it was still playing aggressive while not engaging further than the real estate that was already given to you. And you hold long term, most importantly, you bleed away the information gathering and the utility for Wildcard. In that 2 versus 4 or 2 versus 3 that Wildcard was in, the extent of their utility, information gathering included, they had no drones between those 2 players, at least non-active ones. Sure, some from the dead players could be sporadically put across the map. They had an impact DMP 2 grenades, and then, of course, the sledgehammer to use as much as they please. They had no information gathering, no Dokebi calls to use, no active drones they could put forward, and I think the biggest problem about it was they were relying on that information more often than not, and Arial Rise tearing that away from you is going to cost you the round when you have barely even started to encroach on the site, much less taken apart that top floor row.
Yeah, and again, for me, this just comes down to Wildcard Aces just not being able to put together these attacks since the first one. It's like Arial Arise deserve the credit here for adjusting and figuring out what's working well for them. Okay, we get aggressive, we get up in the face, we play these sort of delayed out games afterwards where we just kind of fall back and hold angles, we hide an armory. Wildcard Aces aren't putting themselves in the positions to break these positions. You have hard breach utility, you have EMPs to get past any potential denial on the wall. Please just use it. You have grenades that aren't being sent through into the common positions. You have logic bombs and lion scans that can be used to assist Bry walking in. Instead, there's no drone in front of him. He's walking up into a doorway getting shot from 3 positions because there's one spot you're applying pressure in and there's no one behind him to try and trade it out. These are mistakes coming out from Wildcard Aces in the last couple of rounds that are now starting to add up. That's what's put Arial Rise ahead of them. And now they have to find a way to change things up. They're once again rocking with this Dokkaebi, with this Lion. Bino on the Twitch, just to try and again, you know, you got the DMR, wonderful gun. You can try and just get some utility down with that shock rod as well, to assist yourself a little bit with peeling away this defense. But immediately Riot's just found himself getting injured.
Trying to take a fight, I believe, through a barricade. I'm not sure if he was just trying to break the barricade or actually take the fight. I'm almost certain that they have no idea they've actually downed the Dokkaebi. Oh, no, Quartz as well.
They definitely do.
Dokkaebi. I lied. My bad. Arial Rise is now fairly happy with that. Riot's not so much. Should be able to be retrieved as he's already walked down the stairs.
His teammates are
and
so
Kira's
far
gonna
away.
pick him up. But that took a lot longer, and that's, what, 30, 40 seconds of a take that is gone for Wildcard fairly early?
Yep. Yeah, something like that. I mean, like, because again, he was just there by himself. The whole point of having Riot there is just to catch any stragglers. He can logic bomb, get the global ability going through the map, has the DMR to challenge some of these longer angles. You can apply that pressure through the walls. You still get a bit of damage dealt. Oh, looking to try and lovely little bit of use of the gadget here if they can pull it off just to draw the angle through the floor, but has to be careful of the window open on site now. There's no one there, but I don't know that. Drone information coming through again to try and clear out this middle floor, but with the first logic bomb going through, so far a minute and a half into the round, they still haven't taken any stairs away, they still haven't cleared out office. It's going to rely on this collapse coming in from Fountain.
They're already worried about that walk-in from the construction side as well. Perfect time walk through. I'm not sure if Freak has been noted on that walk up to construction. He's not. A shot to the back ahead, executed is Bino, and dropped is the Twitch. Now the aggression coming through from the castle, waiting on the rafter side, inside of the waiting room. Kira trying to shut him down, but he walks straight to the crosshairs. Freak a follow-up, a second on the round. He's not done just yet, but finally is shut down. Bry removes him from contention for the rest of the round. His fellow FBI agent is taken care of, but the best part about that here for Arial Rise, Riot's still on 20 HP, and it's a man advantage for them just the same.
40 seconds left on what could potentially be our last round, unless Wildcard Aces can find a way to drag this kill count back. Bit of work to go through this middle floor as well, with JJ trying to open up the barricades outside, with the whole map to walk through. Asian holding this angle, ready to take the gunfight, ready for the head height shots. Lands it into the shoulder of the ace instead. Bright also taking some damage. Meanwhile, all of Arial Rise still at full HP. Quartz gets the pick onto Riot, and now with 10 seconds left, right? Bry does get the pick onto the dock, trying to push down. It's injured in the meantime, and it's Atom playing close, following that up very quickly for the kill. Arial Rise, they are our second team in tomorrow's grand final tonight, Dan, and